Good morning, Austin, and welcome to the Atheist Experience. I always like the Simpsons there. That's a nice little touch there. Try to do something different every week. This is April 25th. We are live. That is our telephone number. We'll be taking your phone calls live on the air through the show. This is my co-host, Jeff D.
Hi, folks.
This week's guest, Earle Beach. You might remember him. He's been on a couple times. We always had a great time. Invited him back. Seems like we never get through everything, but we want to. So, we always like to remind everyone this show is brought to you by Atheist Community of Austin. We meet every Sunday down at the Hot Jumble Bakery, and that's bagelry, not bakery. And I had several people tell me that they misunderstood it and they was having a hard time with the directions. It's actually on West 5th between Guadalupe and La Vaca. And because of all those one-ways, it makes you have to do some planning to get there because of the one-ways. So, and I'll remind everyone again, we leave right here. Once we're done here, we head right down there. That's free and open to the public. We always like meeting new people. We had we had our open-minded Christian show up last week. That was quite interesting, wasn't it?
Did we?
Yes. You didn't get to meet her?
Was that the wife of the guy?
Yeah, I didn't know if she wanted her name mentioned or not, but
I think I said hello.
The open-minded Christian who called the show actually showed up at the meeting, so it was
great.
It was definitely a great week last week. Other announcements of the group is first Sunday in May has always been our elections. That's coming up. That'll be at First North Cross Mall. So we definitely want all the members come out and vote that, and come out and to FERS so we can, get your opinions, get this group going. Things are going well, but we definitely want the input from the whole entire group on our officers, and so it's a very important meeting, and we definitely we'll remind you between now and then. So if you're definitely a member of Atheist Community of Austin, come out to FERS at North Cross Mall first Sunday in May, which would be May 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
May 2nd. All right, that's really all the group announcements for the group. Did you have some news you wanted to share with us?
I got news. I got announcements. Let me just do this thing. And
thanks for reminding me.
Get to that.
It's a great announcement.
The Freedom from Religion Foundation has announced a essay contest for graduating high school seniors in Austin, Texas. High school seniors who attend a high school in Austin, Texas who are college-bound are eligible for the 1999 Rosalind M. Austin Memorial Awards. What happens is you write an essay on the topic Rejecting Religion. Anecdotal essays describing personal observations and experience are welcome, or you may wish to use an historical approach dealing with the general theme. You may write what caused you to reject religion, or you may make the case for non-theism. The essay should be 3 to 4 typed double-spaced pages with standard margins and have an original title. Each contestant must include a paragraph biography giving both campus and permanent addresses and phone numbers. The paragraph biography should identify the Austin High School from which you will have graduated and the college or university you will be attending in fall 1999. Include your major and other interests. The essay deadline is July 15 of this year. Winners will be announced in September. All eligible contestants will receive a school year subscription to Free Thought Today, the Freedom from Religion Foundation newsletter. Winning essays will be printed in full or in part in Free Thought Today. The Rosalind M. Austin Memorial Awards have been established by her son, Horace. Although she did not have the opportunity to attend college, Rosalind Austin maintained a concern for formal education, making sure her son received a college education. She started a nursing scholarship in the 1970s. Rosalind died at age 82 in 1993. Send your essay and biography postmarked no later than July 15, 1999 to High School Essay Contest, Freedom from Religion Foundation, Incorporated, P.O. Box 750, Madison, Wisconsin, 53701. If you have any further questions, please include a business-sized, self-addressed stamped envelope with your inquiry. The FFRF's phone is area code 608-256-8900. And if there are any further questions, apart from what I just read, you can either call us today on the show and I'll reread the details, or call our voicemail number, which is
371-2911, and our webpage. I'll ask Kellen maybe to put a link on our webpage to this.
right, and
which is atheist-community.org for anybody who has access to the web.
oh, and I don't think I mentioned the amounts. The first prize
good
is
point.
a $1,000 scholarship, second prize $500, and third prize $250. So, atheist graduating seniors out there, get your typewriters fired up, or your word processors, and participate in this essay contest, because it's worth real money.
And hopefully, if anybody from Austin wins, maybe they'll let us know. They'll keep us informed of something.
I hope so, and we'll announce that on the show.
Yeah, we'll definitely announce any winners from Austin on the show.
Absolutely.
This is a national contest, right?
It is. I
It's just a
believe it is
coincidence
only
the
for
women's-
Austin high school seniors. That's correct.
Oh,
High school graduating seniors, college-bound graduating seniors in Austin, Texas.
and the lady's name is Austin.
That is
But
correct.
there's no connection necessarily.
That appears to be a coincidence.
Oh, okay.
Very observant there, Earl. That slid right by me. I was thinking national too, the way I said that. So if anybody wins, they will be from Austin.
I hope so. So I hope somebody from Austin
Right
wins.
connection.
Yes. Or I hope all three of them go out there, and I hope they get hundreds of entries there. That would be fantastic if they had hundreds to choose from.
That would be great.
Uh,
Should I go on with more news, or do you want to go to Earl, or what do you want to do?
Decisions.
I thought we let Earl take over here for
Okay.
a few minutes here, if you don't
That's
mind. One thing we did do last week, we did the safe walk last week, so at one point we're going to put that tape up in the background. We don't have to do it yet, but just Atheist Community was out there, and it was, sorry Earl, to get started. Funny thing happened there. We was going through there, and they stopped the traffic, backed up quite a few spots there with the parade going through. So the people got out on their cars and was actually watching the parade go by. And we're walking by with the atheist banner there, Atheist Community. Yay, the atheists there! So we actually had a crowd that was actually applauding the atheists there. That's made our day. And I turned around and got them on the video, so I'll be sure and point that part out on the video when they come up. So I guess we'll go on to Earl here, and Earl had some topic, didn't you? Or did you want to go with Christian charity? Or?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Christian charity. We have a number of shows, a number of callers to the show that end up saying things like, well, we practice charity. We do all these good works. Boy, is my shirt glimmering or what? What do you do? And I'm just going to give a detailed answer to that, I guess. It kind of fits the theme that I've been doing. I've been talking about the difficulties Christians have in viewing things. First time I was on, I talked about Sunday school lessons where they had to leave things out that were in the Bible to get their desired results instead of the real conclusions from the stories. Last month I talked about how they looked at things through a cultural bias, and there seems to be a lot of subjectivity in their notion of Christian charity here as well. I'm going to start off by referring to a few points in a few passages in the Bible that seem to indicate to Christians that they should expect to have a problem on their outlook of things. I'm going to start off with 1 Corinthians 13:13 that opens with them being told that for now they see things as through a glass darkly. I think this is kind of interesting because we had a caller when I was on the show who quoted the previous verse to us about putting away childish things. And I don't know exactly what his point was. To me, when I became an adult, I put away the most childish thing in my childhood, which was Christianity. We also find something about a viewing problem in the third part of the Sermon on the Mount, where Matthew has his Jesus say that to his followers that don't get too upset about the mote in the other guy's eye, tend to the beam in their own. So it's kind of interesting to me that to try to see how they look at things. Now we have these folks calling brag about their charity, it might be interesting for them to see what it looks like from my perspective. It's not as quite as bright and shiny as they think it is. I guess the first problem, not from our perspective necessarily, but from theirs, is that they really ought not to be bragging about it in the first place. Every time I hear one of them do that, I immediately think of the third salvation plan passage I had to memorize as a teenager, before I put away that childish thing. And that's Ephesians 2:8 and 9. For by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is a gift of God. And then it wraps up with, not of works, lest any man should boast. Wow, if God designed a salvation plan in such a way as to keep people from boasting about their good works, then gee, maybe Christians ought not to boast about it. Now, I talk about this chasm just about every time I'm on between John and Paul and salvation by faith, you know, the soft plan, and Matthew and Mark and James and Peter and all the little rules and all the other stuff they have, including that kind of fermenting notion of a hell where they borrow Gehenna and Hades and all. And so I've got something from that side of the fence too here, from the middle part of the Sermon on the Mount, beginning the 6th chapter. And I'll just read it in its entirety from the Douay version. Take heed that you do not your alms before men to be seen of them, otherwise ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee as the hypocrites in the synagogues and in the streets, that thou may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. This is even more ominous. Go around making a big spectacle of your alms, your charity, your good works, and what's it say? You have no reward of your Father in heaven. It's kind of got a cute turn of phrase in there. Let not your left hand know what your right hand is doing when you do good works. You're supposed to be so removed from bragging about it, it doesn't even register with you that you've done it. It's not even a habit, it's a reflex, you know. I kind of like that notion. So right off the bat, they call and ask what we do. Well, I guess we follow their scriptures a bit better. We don't go around bragging about our charity. But
I'm prepared to.
Since they put it on the, well, okay,
I am under no such
they're
command.
not rules for us. Yeah, but you know, since they put it on the table, so to speak, since they held it up as their example, well, we're entitled to look at it then. And I should say at this point that even if I bid entirely on the Christian charity thing, thought it was all good, gave them everything they wanted to score on that side, I'd already made my decision that they did more harm than good, and that the balance of the scales was way down in what you might call the anti-charity side. And I reached that conclusion about a decade ago, and that's where I basically, when I went from calling myself an agnostic to an atheist, that was a critical factor for that. Basically, I could no longer say, well, I just don't have that belief, but if others do, that's fine with me. I had to say, on the whole, it's a bad thing and it isn't fine. And that's when I took the stronger stance and adopted the stronger label. So, you know, for my point of view and where I am, it isn't necessary to find any holes in Christian charity, but they just keep poking up in my face anyways. Now, one caller specifically talked about hospitals and orphanages. Right. We have all these hospitals and orphanages. What do you folks do? Well, orphanages I can dispense with more quickly because I don't know a heck of a lot about them. But I did mention the anti-charity side, and what do we have right now but a bill before the legislature which would actually take children out of households and put them back in orphanages, and this is a religious right type of deal, a conservative Christian thing. They say family values, but they're actually putting children, or want to put children, back in orphanages. I guess so they can brag about their charity a bit more. Charity and orphanages. I don't know, but I can make some assumptions or offer hypothetical questions. One, doesn't the state pay the same for the support of an orphan, no matter what type of institute he's in? And two, do children in Christian orphanages really get to live higher off the hog than children in other orphanages? For some reason, I don't think so. So whatever Christians put in as additional funding, they're leverage. They have, or into the orphanage, they have an awful lot of leverage, to use a financial term, off of our money when they do so. And what they get primarily is a captive audience for their proselytization. Same thing with hospitals. When you're in a hospital, you're not free to get up and leave. And I'm amazed at the number of preachers, lay preachers in particular, that have written to me and talked to me about their prison ministries, talk about the ultimate captive populations there. So, well, I don't know. I read the Bible about charity for some clues about what the extent ought to be. And I find early in the book of Acts there's a man, I think his name was Ananias, and his wife, and they were new converts, and they sold this plot of land, and they were supposed to give all the money for the disciples, but they kept a little for themselves, you know, take care of themselves in their old age. But that wasn't good enough. One by one, they were struck dead at Peter's feet. And then each of the three synoptic gospels has a version of the story of this man that spent a night in Jesus' tent. One of them says he was a rich man, another a young man, a third he was a bureaucrat or something. But in all of them, he asks Jesus what he must do to be saved, and Jesus keeps throwing rules out of him. He starts off with the five, what you might call them, secular commandments, the 5 commandments in the oral list of Exodus 20 that aren't in the written list. The thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, honor thy father and thy mother. He says, yeah, I kept them since my youth. Each of these 3 Gospels have Jesus give another rule. It's different in each case. Not that there's any contradictions or anything. This one he meets too. So finally he throws at him, give all you have to the poor in order to follow me. And in all 3 accounts, the man walks away in despair. He can't live up to that. So it sounds like Christian charity ought to go the distance. It ought to go pretty far. Let's see, I've hit on the Sermon on the Mount a couple times already. I'm kind of working through it backwards here.
Okay.
So now something from the first chapter on it, Matthew 5:42. Give to him that asketh of thee, and from him that would borrow of thee, turn not away. So it sounds like it's yeah, it's supposed to go the distance there. It's not give till it hurts. It's not just give till you feel good about it. It's give all that's asked of you, period. So if Christians want to brag about their orphanages, why don't they brag about emptying them? Again, I don't have the figures, but we've got to have a lot more Christian families in here than we have orphans, and be a very small percentage of them that if they just adopted a child would empty the orphanages. Until that happens, and I doubt it will, the brag of Christian charity in the form of orphanages, I have a pretty deaf ear. I consider the presence of orphanages being a sign of the limitation of Christian charity. Now, hospitals is where I've got some deep and dirty things to get into here. I lived in Houston in the 80s, only moved up here in 1990, and opened my morning paper down there one day to a front page story about some trouble with a state that one of the leading Christian hospitals had gotten into, Methodist Hospital of Houston. The state was threatening to pull its tax-exempt status. It had a tax-exempt status for being a charitable institution. The state said, we came, we looked, we didn't see any. Pay up. There were follow-up items, of course, in the paper, and it seems the representatives for this Christian institution, this Christian charity hospital, were all lawyers. And what they were doing was they were dickering with the state. Hey, we'll offer you this much, we'll offer you that much if we get to keep the tax-exempt status. I mean, it was a pure financial arrangement for them. And I'm reminded of this every time I go down to Houston and see the big billboards for Methodist Hospital along the freeways. I don't see much charity there. Of course, then I move up here to Austin, and we have religious hospitals that aren't Methodist. We have what? We have the Setons, and we have St. David's. Well, one of the first big news items when I moved up here was how people were being shipped out of private hospitals, dying en route to that secular charity place they always ask us about, you know, Breckenridge. Turns out they didn't have insurance cards in their pockets when they were admitted to emergency wards, and they were shipping them out before they were stable and they were dying, and hospital administrators were being threatened with, well, criminal charges, manslaughter. Because, and of course they'd argue, well, we thought they were stable, but got to say the proof was in the pudding. They were dying. So I guess they've cleaned up their act. That hasn't been in the news here anymore. And I've since seen private hospitals that aren't Christian hospitals in our city. One went up in my neighborhood. And I've also learned since then that the St. David's are no longer owned by the Presbyterians. Christian charity, again, is not as unlimited as it's supposed to be in some cases. But about Seton, fine Catholic institution, right? I had a coworker in there about 4 years ago. Went and visited him. He was in the intensive care ward. That worried me. I asked him about it. Oh, the other wards are full. So, okay, no problem there. Till he got back to work, and we worked in the same room, and he was on the phone with the hospital, and he was on the phone with his insurance company, and they played him back and forth like a ping pong ball. He was billed for that extra cost of ICU, even though he didn't need it, and of course the insurance company wouldn't pay it. And that's a Christian charity institution. Now, when you deal with for-profit entities, usually there's something called business ethics. I know when I make plans to travel to another city and I rent a car, and I rent a subcompact, and all they have is a full-size car, I pay the subcompact rate. They honor their commitment, they don't oversell, they don't take advantage of me. And here that Christian hospital seemed all ready to do it. So hospitals and orphanages, I'm not too excited about that notion there. I was raised a Christian in an evangelical church, so I had this exposure to Christian charity when I was a kid. We had a rescue mission in my hometown. My church was one of about 7 or so that supported it. And I thought it was a good work at the time, but now in retrospect, I'm not even sure of that. The folks there the transients that had to rely on the mission when they were in that town, usually managed to get the last Saturday freight out. If they didn't, they had to go to somebody's church. We were one of 7 churches or so supporting it, so every 7 or so weeks, we had what us kids referred to as a shiny suit Sunday. We had a back row full of people kind of glimmering like our clothes are on our monitor over here, because of course they were wearing suits that had been washed and ironed to death. And you know, none of these men that we saw in this church filling that back row ever came back. None of them ever became good, upstanding members of that community. None of them ever joined our church. But they had to do that if they wanted to be fed that day. So Christian charity often has strings attached like that. Like I mentioned with orphanages, it's a proselytization come-on technique. Now, when I first moved to Houston, I got a lot of flyers in the mail for timeshare condo schemes, and it seems all of them offered a free clock radio as a come-on deal. So I kind of look at Christian charity having a relationship to Christian proselytization efforts, just as that clock radio has a relation to selling timeshare condos. So what have I talked about? Captive audiences, anti-charity being greater than their charity. They're often not so charitable. I have other points marked here that I wanted to talk about, that oftentimes it's actually our charity that I'm claiming, and also that they often dig into our pockets. Now, of course, when they have a tax exemption cert for being a charity organization and you can't see the charity, yeah, that's an outright steal from us, because we pay the taxes. They don't in that case. We're subsidizing them. Quite often, they actually have the palm right out in front of our face. Have you noticed that? Have you ever had someone in a white suit come up with a cup to your car window at an intersection? They're collecting money for a Christian charity. Roll down the window and ask them, yes, it's a Christian charity. And why are you asking money from me, an atheist, I say? And they silently walk on to the next car window. But they're indiscriminate with their fundraising. And
it's perfectly legal, by the way.
Yeah.
As long as you're collecting money for the church, because we checked into that. So if you ask them and they give you a church address or whatever else, it's perfectly legal.
okay.
I didn't know if you knew that or not.
Well, I put in the same category. We get a lot of that on a seasonal basis, of course, with the Salvation Army Santa Clauses,
Right.
the donation cup on the counter of HEB. That's for, religious charity. And a lot of people give to it without thinking. It'd be nice if they should. But then other people claim it as their good works when really to that extent it's ours. I used to do volunteer work at Y. I helped tutor English, tutor Southeast Asian refugees in English, and it was a lot of fun, and I got benefits out of it too. And I didn't think I was giving any Christians any right to call that their good works. Yeah, the C and YMCA is for Christian, but then the Y is for young, and I didn't see much of either of those at the Y I was a member of at the time, so it didn't mean much to me. Now, I don't know. Should I do volunteer work at a Y again? Or should I even, when my company asks me, should I give up a Saturday afternoon and go work for Habitat for Humanity? We had a caller, I think in February when I was on the show, kind of hit us with, well, you know, Habitat for Humanity is a Christian charity, and that really, well, surprised me. I had been scheduled to go there just the day before with my company, and hadn't, just because there was last minute overtime scheduled. I work for a contract agency. The company I'm placed at gives Thursdays up to their employees to go do volunteer work. They donate their time. I work for a big company that's international in scope. This client, that's actually the first letter of their name. And I work with people of all faiths and no faith from all over the world there. I don't think they'd be pushing a Christian charity, so I'm still a little confused about that one. If it's a Christian charity, it takes an awful lot of non-Christian labor for free too. And I guess I've pretty much run the gamut there. Christian charity isn't all they think it is, and actually they shouldn't be bragging about it to begin with.
Whatever happened to taking care of the homeless? You know, and weren't churches, and they say in the good old days, you know, churches were open to homeless. That doesn't happen anymore. I did a little bit of volunteer work for this organization to help with the homeless, and it was in a church, but it wasn't a church. The church just gave up their basement for these people, and then they decided to kick them out later.
Well, I lived in San Francisco for some time, and I lived in a part of town with a lot of churches around it. The big new St. Mary's that we called St. Maytag because it had a tower that looked like it belonged in a washing machine, which the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence picketed. They had a kiss in front of it on Palm Sunday because the Catholic Church wanted to force them to cancel their charity raising event on Easter Sunday morning. That was right in my neighborhood. And I noticed that there was only one church out of all those churches in Church Road that actually had its door open for the homeless, and that was the Unitarian Church. The Lutherans, the Baptists, the Catholics, the Congregationalists, everyone else locked up. And yeah, that is kind of like a Western tradition, a kind of an icon. You can always get shelter, the church is always open. But it really isn't so, is it? Thanks for bringing that up, Arlo.
That was Arlo, our sound guy. Thank you. Remind everyone, this is April 25th. We are going to take your phone calls live on the air. We have several callers here waiting, so let's go to a caller here. Looks like Duane.
Hey, how are you doing?
Fantastic.
Hey, to the guy on the right, what's your name?
My right or your right?
My right. I guess your left, right?
That'd be Earle Beach.
Okay. Hey, he has the same problem I have when I'm on the campus and I talk to these different Christian campus ministry groups.
Yeah.
Is that they say, hey, you know the Bible real well. Why don't you believe? I said, because I know it too well.
Exactly.
I was raised reading the Bible, and I studied it, and I said, hey, this stuff doesn't make any sense. And compared to what Jesus says in the Bible, you guys are all hypocrites.
I think it's Mark Twain who said, I don't reject the Bible because of the parts I don't understand. I reject the Bible because of the parts I do understand.
Excellent quote. Yes.
Hey, and another thing I noticed is like, what is it? Okay, like with this charity thing, I've noticed. Another example I've noticed is, like in the Old Testament, the tithing part, the 10%, is an Old Testament thing. It's basically like paying taxes to take care of the priest for the upkeep of the temple, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They use that, churches use that in the New Testament where it really doesn't even apply in order to get 10% of these guys' incomes directly to the church. And there's some churches that like take it directly from your paycheck into their accounts. And then on top of that, they're heavily recruiting on college campuses because they figure the person with the college degree is going to make more money. The 10% of somebody who makes more money is less than some little regular layman guy out on the streets working $6.50 an hour.
Well, like Earl pointed out, the fact that they're tax exempt, the whole entire country is supporting them. And so I'd love to see more done with the tax laws that we have nowadays. And I think Colorado is actually they had a referendum up there to start paying taxes, didn't they?
It made it to the ballot, but it didn't carry. It lost
didn't carry,
by an overwhelming amount.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. But so there are states out there that are working towards that.
Hey, can I ask you one last question?
Sure.
Have you guys been attacked this morning for what happened in, it was at that Columbine High School?
Not yet.
Okay.
You're our first caller.
You know, that's you guys' fault that those kids saw those Christians and everybody around them as hypocrites, man.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Ian.
You have a great week. All right, let's go to Martha.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Wanted to kind of bring up a point about charity.
Sure.
A lot of people forget the old statement, charity begins at home.
Right.
I think we need to make sure that things are being taken care of at home before we start spending our time doing charity in the community. Now, I'm a very big believer in charity work. I do a lot of charity work. The example I'm thinking of, I talked 2 weeks ago about my grandfather, who was a Christian and Missionary Alliance minister, fundamentalist as you can get. He was always bringing, he had 7 kids in his house, 7 of his own kids, but he was always bringing 4, 5, 6 other people home to eat. Now, this is a family that literally had to go fishing and crabbing and shrimping in the Gulf of Mexico. They lived in Mississippi just to get food for the table. But yet he was making sure he grabbed all these poor souls off the street, going to bring them home and save them. But he was spending more time working and trying to save other people's soul than he was worrying about his own family. And I think we need to be real careful about that. You know, just the point for all those Christians out there that, you know.
Yeah, no, I am, from the callers we get, we have a lot of Christians watching this show. I know. So, thanks for your call. Yeah, you got anything else?
I'm sorry, I can't. I can see your mouth moving on the TV, but I can't hear a word you're saying.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Apparently,
no.
we're having problems with the phone again. So I'll go ahead and let you hang up so I can hear your discussion about it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I guess our voices ain't going out on the phone there. Ain't going out on the phone there.
Well done, Ray.
Yes. Yes. So we'll work on that. Just remind everyone, this is April 25th. We're taking your calls live on the air. It's brought to you by Atheist Community of Austin, and we meet down at the Hot Jumbo Bagelry at West 5th and Lavaca. As soon as we get done here, that's West 5th between Guadalupe and Lavaca. So you got to figure on those one-ways down there.
Shall I do some news?
Yeah, I guess we got a couple minutes here, and it'd be a great time to do some news.
Okay. Here's a couple of stories forwarded to the group by Joe Zamecki, a former member now with American Atheists in New Jersey. School clergy plan struck down in Beaumont, Texas. A school program that brought local clergy to counsel students about morality and civic virtues was ruled unconstitutional by a federal appeals panel. A 3-judge panel of the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, voting 2-1 on Friday, to overturn a 1996 federal district court ruling, sided with 7 students and parents who argued the Beaumont Independent School District program violated the constitutional separation of church and state. In the Clergy in the Schools program, which began in 1996, local religious leaders were invited to counsel elementary and secondary students at the school during school hours. The district said the program let students discuss morality and civic virtues, helped increase school safety, and gave a local group an interest in the schools. The clergy were not to discuss religion, sex, or abortion, and were not to pray with students. The school district's creation of a special program that recruits only clergymen to render volunteer counseling makes a clear statement that it favors religion over non-religion, the panel ruled. The judges said the clergy selected were disproportionately Protestants. Parents were not notified or asked to give consent, though students could decline to participate. I think it is a very sad day, said board member Woodrow Reese, school board member, I presume. I didn't see any harm from the program, but I did see a lot of good. Students need some type of mentors to come into schools. Well, that may be true, but of course it misses the point. A need for some type of mentors does not justify bringing in only Christian mentors, and primarily Protestant mentors at that. The school can fix the problem by removing the bias, but that would mean allowing atheist mentors to speak to kids too. So are they really interested in providing some type of mentors, or was this just another attempt to sneak Christianity into our public schools? The appeals court panel sent the case back to the federal district court to issue any orders necessary to prohibit the district from continuing with the program. Americans United for Separation of Church and State and the Anti-Defamation League submitted briefs in support of the complaining students and parents.
Excellent.
Should I go on to the next one? We still don't have a caller.
Yeah.
Another story forwarded to us by Joe Zamecki: Atheist doesn't have to go to AA.
I heard this. I read this article. Yes, go ahead.
An appeals court said an atheist cannot be forced to attend Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, but the court also noted that his $1 award for damages was, quote, just about right, unquote. The ruling came Monday in the court case of Robert Warner, who had argued that the Orange County Department of Probation ignored his constitutional rights when it required him to attend AA meetings as part of his probation following an impaired driving conviction. That's drunk driving for those of us in this state. Warner argued that the order meant he would be forced to participate in religious exercises in violation of his First Amendment rights. The Second U.S. Court of Appeals, siding with a lower court judge, agreed in a split ruling. It also said U.S. District Court Judge Gerard Gottel was right to find no substantial damages and to reward Warner only a nominal $1. Attorney Richard Golden, representing Orange County, said he planned to appeal the case to the Supreme Court. He said any religious aspect of AA meetings did not rise to the level of an establishment of religion.
Sheesh.
I guess that would be arguable, I'd think.
Then we have luckily the people in Austin have a choice. We have a secular choice for sobriety.
Now, do they not have such a choice in the state of New York?
That amazes me if they don't. And as big as New York is, they should have secular
I would think
counseling.
so.
It might just be Alcoholics Anonymous is so well known, everyone's heard of that, and I don't know
Right.
so many people have heard of Rational Recovery or
That's
SOS.
Yeah.
There's actually two of them, which doesn't help either.
Thank you. Yes, and I knew that there was a secular choice, and but the impression I got when I read the article, they were saying that they specified AA in the requirements.
Yeah, that's what it says here. So again, this problem could be solved by the courts merely ceasing to be purely religious in their addressing of these issues. If they said, okay, you've been convicted of drunk driving, now you must take some sort of alcohol recovery program, here pick from these available ones, and they included non-religious options, that would be fine, but that's not what they did.
Exactly.
Just like the school bringing in the counselors, it's fine if they want to bring in counselors as long as they don't restrict it to only religious ones and only a certain class of religious ones while they're at it.
It seems like they should be more concerned about their education and the educational level of the mentors, and sorry to get back to the mentors, than they would be about, there should be no religious questions whatsoever on that volunteer application. I'm sure but there should be some background checks because they're going to be dealing with.
Well, yeah, you don't want to just let any vagrant off the street in to
Exactly.
talk to your kids, but you can't use religion as that criteria because the separation of church and state prohibits that.
I don't know, with all the pre-speedo cases, maybe the vagrant off the street would be safer.
Got a caller if you want to take that call?
Yeah, let's try it. Mike?
Oh, yes, sir. I was just listening to y'all's show this morning, and it made me think back about 10 years ago. I was on probation in Brazos County here in Texas, and I've never had a drug conviction or even so much as a PI or anything. And they made me go to AA and all this other stuff, and they, towards the end of it, they started making me go to this, like a drug counseling there, which was run by the state. It was right there in the probation department, and the guy got up, his name was Bill, and it was 10 sessions, and through it all he had like this little pie chart, and on the pie chart probably about 1/3 of it was where he was rambling on about a higher power, and
Right.
you got to get some religion in your life to drive these drugs out of it and everything, which, was, I kept trying to tell them, I never had a drug conviction or anything like that, but I guess since I had long hair and looked kind of crazy, they're like, well, you need this, and I'll just, AA is all, like I didn't like none of that neither, but all that's kind of like private, kind of sector of the deal there. But this was actually state run with a state psychiatrist sitting here pushing religion off on you. And you was almost made to feel like as if you didn't actually just come out and at least say it to a group, kind of like in 1984 where you say you see 4 fingers, even though he's holding up 3. You had to at least say it before you could, like, be, stamped, yeah, you're okay,
And from what I understand, didn't you have to pay some of that cost out of your own pocket? I don't think you had to pay for the whole thing, but didn't you have to actually pay for some of that out of your own money?
No, just the probation, fee itself, which was on a monthly deal.
What I was leading up to was that they were actually forcing you to pay, to attend the religious events, but I guess that wasn't the case in your particular case. Sorry, I didn't mean to exaggerate your circumstances there. How are they still doing that program? Do you know how long ago was this?
Oh, that was at least 10, 12 years ago, and that was in Brazos County, so up there in Bryan. So I'm not really sure what's going on up there. I headed out of that place as quick as I could as soon as I got off probation.
Well, if there's any other atheists out there that end up in that situation, be sure to ask for the secular solution to your problem.
I even kind of argued with old Bill there when he first started pulling that little deal out there, but I kind of just blew off arguing with him. I knew it'd just be easier to go along with it all and cruise to class and just get him out of my hair,
All right.
Mm-hmm.
But what y'all was talking about just reminded me of that, and that, like I was saying, with AA, that's bad enough, but that's kind of like a little private kind of a cult kind of little deal there is what it reminded me of after just a little bit. And, but this was, what I'm talking about was state-run. You will attend this, you will agree,
Do you have any idea if that's still going on out there?
It probably is. I mean, Bryan doesn't really change that much.
It's not that big. Being the population level in there, you might have a hard time finding a secular solution out there.
Oh, they just look at you all strange.
Is it BRYN?
Yeah. Well, there is a big atheist group at the campus there, we know.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, you got College Station kind of joined up with it,
Station,
Bryan College Station.
Well, I appreciate your call.
All righty, y'all have a good morning.
And you have a great week. All right. And we have a couple things here. You can either go to news articles or you can
I can do more news.
or either one.
I'm holding off on those until it comes up. Your fossil may be missing link.
Yeah, I've read this one too. Yes.
We have new ancient humanoid remains discovered, this time in Ethiopia. Skull and tooth fragments unearthed in Ethiopia may be those of a completely new hominid or human-like species that lived 2.5 million years ago. The fossils were found at Bauri, northeast of Addis Ababa. The international team of researchers who made the discovery suggest the remains could even come from a creature that immediately preceded humans. This is a contentious claim among scientists who have competing theories as to how humans first emerged in history. However, there are 3 pieces of evidence at Bauri: new skull and tooth fragments, tools for carving and eating meat, and both long arm and leg bones. If these can all be shown to have come from the same creatures, which has not yet been determined, then a vital missing link in the evolution of humans from apes may well have been found. The reasoning is that the oldest fossils of a direct human ancestors are 1.7 million years old. Homo erectus used tools and had short arms and legs. The youngest human-like ape fossils show long arms and short legs and no evidence of technology. The new discovery may sit between the two in time and evolution. The research is published in 2 separate papers in the journal Science. And again, that's evolution news.
Yes.
For those of you out there wondering what this has to do with atheism.
Because the article I read pointed out that the fossil named Lucy is 3.5 million. See, so this is...
right. I'm trying to trim these things down. You're right. It went on to...
Oh, is it in the same... I'm sorry.
It probably was from the same Was it on CNN?
No, that's quite
Okay.
all right. No, I appreciate
Anyway.
it. I just they are trying to piece it together. Is the point I was leading it up.
That's right.
And,
Always trying to figure stuff out. We're not omniscient, therefore the best we can do is piece together the evidence that we've got, and this is new evidence. And what the evidence is revealing is that human beings didn't just get planted here like geraniums. We have evolved like all other life forms from lower forms of life.
And it's going the correct scientific procedure about it. They've found the evidence. They made their conclusion, and now they're publishing it.
They're publishing it. It's going to get beat on by other scientists,
Right.
and they're all going to work and try to fit this puzzle together.
And the point I'm trying to make is our intelligence is constantly evolving, and depending on the information that's out there, and it's a conglomerate. It's an effort through the whole thing, and we have callers on hold, and we're being told God is bunk by our floor manager, and I don't know why he threw that.
I don't know.
Threw that one in. Had nothing to do with what
He's
we were
venting.
saying.
That's
Yes.
supposed to be a Thomas
We're waiting to
Alva
find
Edison
out.
quote.
We're waiting to find out the name of this caller.
Yeah,
Let's take callers now. I really want to hold this stuff off until we, as that previous caller asked, when we start getting the calls from Christians trying to blame us for school shootings.
Well, you're
Gee, it
checking
almost
us
sounds
on
like
that,
you're
may I
inviting
just-
them.
I just
I
wanna
am
go
inviting
ahead-
them.
Go ahead, Arlo. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I just wanted to go ahead and make a correction. Can you hear me now?
You sure?
I just want to make a correction from last
great
week. 'Cause
idea.
Someone
Go
might
ahead.
call in about that.
Good time.
I had stated, I said, I made a quote from the Bible, and I had said Deuteronomy 21, verse 12. I meant to say Deuteronomy 25, verse 12, but hey, pretty close for an atheist, huh? And what the quote was is it was an example of a good time to cut off your wife's hand.
Right.
By God, it says, when men strive together one with another, and the wife of one draweth near for her to deliver her husband out of the hand of him that smiteth him, and putteth forth her hand and taketh him by the secrets, then thou shalt cut off her hand, thine eye shall not pity her. So you lose your hand for touching the private parts of a man. So just a warning out there.
Even if you're trying to save your husband when you do it.
Right.
Yes.
That's like that poor slob that tried to write the Ark of the Covenant as it was falling, but he wasn't entitled to touch it. So he was struck dead. Well,
Yes.
you just can't do enough good in the Bible, can you?
All right. This is Joe. Joe?
Good morning.
Joe Zamecki. Can you hear me?
Joe? He can't hear us.
Joe can't hear us. I'm going to put him back on hold.
Well, shucks darn.
Sorry about that. That's Joe Zamecki, and he doesn't have the advantage of hearing us on TV. He's in New Jersey.
If you can try it again, I just flipped some switches, which might do the trick.
Okay. Joe?
Good morning.
Yeah, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Fantastic. Sorry, you couldn't hear us a minute ago. We tried getting you a minute ago.
No problem.
So, yes, we hadn't heard in you a while.
Yeah, I took a break for a while. Hey, these calls are expensive, man.
Yes.
Anyway, hey, I heard y'all had a great convention.
Thank you. It turned out real well. And news of Madeline O'Hare happened the same weekend, so we had a bunch of news people down filming and everything else. So.
You know, the same thing happened to us up here. We had a lot of media.
Yes, isn't that funny?
We also had the move to New Jersey and the dedication of our new headquarters also. It's like a three-pronged news story, But it was great.
Fantastic.
And something else that happened, last night I just wanted to talk about the Great God Debate, which took place in Red Lion, Pennsylvania.
No, we missed it.
Yeah, this was put on by some people, a coalition of people. Our Pennsylvania State Director, Liz Burson, along with a couple of people from the Glenview Alliance Church in Red Lion, Pennsylvania. And it was at an old high school basketball stadium, or gym, and it was great. Ron Barrier, our spokesperson, was speaking, and then Liz Burson, our Pennsylvania person also, and then Paul Copan, author, international lecturer, and apologist with Ravi Zacharias International Ministries of North Cross, Georgia, was there on the opposition, and William Reed, a local minister of Glenview Alliance Church in Susquehanna Trail in southern York County, Pennsylvania. And it was just a lot of fun. I got to film it on video. And I tell you, it's amazing how many of the same old, tired ideas are really fresh and ripe when you add a little emotion. They did exactly that. One of them, the minister, by the end of it, he was just like on Sunday, just raving, from the pulpit. He was, his nerves were exploding. It was great fun, I tell you.
We'd love to see the tape, it sounds like.
Yeah, we made one, and I'll try to send you one, sure. That'd be great.
And speaking of that, I tried to email you, and it sent it back saying it was the wrong email address. Get a hold of me later on that, or
okay, I got
or
it.
email me or something. I did try to email you.
Okay, no problem.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, yeah. Is everything going great in Austin like I
Yes.
predict?
Fantastic. Like I said, the convention, we had Dan Barker here.
Yeah.
Had him on KLBJ Radio. That was fun. It wasn't. They asked the same old silly questions about life after death. You don't believe in this. You don't believe in that. And
Well, this was Dale Dudley also, right?
yeah, but he didn't do much talking. I had downloaded his bio and gave it to him, and he was so impressed with his bio that he let someone else basically handle the interview.
Very good. Smart guy. What about Deborah? Now, I understand she's sort of agnostic.
She was out having a baby, so she wasn't actually on the show.
Oh, that's right.
Nancy Reed actually is the one that handled the interview mostly.
Nancy Reed.
And but it fell on Good Friday, and the funny thing about that is I took off time off from work to go down there to be on the radio station. I took Dan Barker down there himself, and I'm actually getting grief from coworkers for doing that on Good Friday. They thought it was very bad taste to do anything with atheists on Good Friday. I actually have one female coworker that hasn't talked to me since. But
ouch.
yes, and, so it was an odd weekend. Yes.
Well.
Did you tell her the other half of Christianity thought Good Friday came a week later?
Yeah.
And we dropped bombs on that Good Friday.
Yeah, we were bombing Belgrade and all that on.
Well, not us personally.
Yes, NATO. Yes. So, anything else, man? We love hearing from you, but is there anything else?
Yeah, well, there was one thing.
Sure.
There were some people out in the parking lot of this debate who were from a different church. You know, we all had our stuff on a table there, giving it out free inside, because we were participating, but some other people from a different church, the Church in New Freedom, Pennsylvania. Great name, you know. They brought their little tracts also.
Let's say a redundant, or
I'm sorry?
oxymoron name for the
There you
church.
go.
Okay. And one of the things on the back is it says, write for the following free articles, and one of them is entitled, Have You Obeyed the Truth? And it's just loaded up with the most amazing things. Well, anyway, there's plenty of that, and it's a lot of fun. The weather's great here. How's the weather doing over there? Is it nice?
Raining.
Raining?
It's dreary and drizzly and raining this morning.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds so nice.
But Eeyore's was yesterday. I went down to Eeyore. Jeff went to Eeyore's.
I went down there.
Eeyore's birthday? Oh,
Yeah,
man.
that was yesterday.
Oh.
It was hot and dusty. Yeah, but a great turnout.
Wow.
And we did the Safe Walk last week. And speaking of Safe Walk, are we guys ready to run that tape? We're gonna run that tape in the background. Walk for Safe Place last week. Actually, I'm embarrassed by the turnout.
There we go. Woohoo!
Yeah, that's a nice. See, we're doing the chroma key with it.
There we go. They faded us out.
There, yes. So it turned out great. Dell Computers had a bunch of people there. Each little department had their own little banners and everything else.
Neat.
So.
Now, what exactly was the cause?
It's for domestic violence. They combined several entities in there. There we go.
Hey.
Yeah, there's Vic with the banner. Yes.
That's it. Cover the face, Vic.
Yes. He's trying to make it look like we got more people. See, yeah. See, there he is dancing up and down, trying to make it look like we have more people.
I wish I could have gone out there with you guys on that one, but I had forgotten that it was that day, and I dressed too warm, and I just didn't.
Oh, it was hot. Yeah.
Didn't have time to run back and change my clothes.
It's for domestic violence. Any domestic violence whatsoever. You know, kids, women, and mostly kids and women. But I'm sure there's men that are victims of domestic violence also, a minority, I'm sure. But the paper said there was over 5,000 people showed up for that. So, great turnout.
That's great.
Anything else, Joe?
Well, if you could just put me on hold, I want to listen for a while.
You sure can.
Thanks.
Have a great week. And
Y'all
email
have a good
me.
day.
All right.
See ya.
All right, fantastic. Always good hearing Joe Zamecki. That was
Oh, wow, we're up on a stage. I'm getting dizzy.
yes, and that's cool. You get to see us doing the walk here shortly here. This is just all the before the walk. No, this is us getting ready to go get in line right now. Is what.
For anybody out there who hasn't participated in one of these things, it's really a hoot to just go down there with a bunch of people who are being out in public for some cause that you all agree with. It's a really fun thing to do.
Yeah, and everybody, most of the people's in a good mood. In this particular case, it wasn't like the hate crimes march where you actually had those idiots out there throwing the Bible quotes at you or whatever.
Yeah, you didn't have like the
There was no
pro-violence forces.
Yeah, there was no pro-violence forces. Thank you. That's the word I was trying to think of.
And you get out there, and it's nice and sunny, and you walk, and that's good exercise. So.
Yes.
Now, March for Families was pretty fun. Were there any people opposing that when we did
Yeah,
that?
that's what Ray was talking about.
Oh, I see.
Yes, there were. They look. Not to classify all Christians as
You had
rednecks,
Minnie Mouse there? Oh, it's some.
but they look like a bunch of redneck farmers had the God hate fags and stuff.
It was pretty pathetic.
Yes. All right, let's go to Robert.
Yeah, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. I'm kind of an agnostic operating within an Anglican Christian framework, and that's really the best I can do right now.
Okay.
But I just wanted to call and let you all know how much I love atheists. I go to UT, and because of my very liberal theological background, I like to. It amazes me how little humor there is, or how little sense of humor a lot of fundamentalist Christians have, or how hypersensitive people are to their religious ideology. And I love hanging around atheists because you all have the best religious humor in the world. I get around atheists, I laugh till I can't breathe. And I think if Christians could, eat a little bit more humble pie, and be just, appreciate what other points of view, I think they could find that atheists are some of the best friends they could have, because you all are so funny.
Thank you.
And anyway,
we wanted to invite you down to the bagel shop once we leave. Once we're done here, we head down to Hot Jumbo Bakery, and
You do?
Yes, and we have a whole group of atheists down there.
Well, let me tell you something. I'm a UT student. I get picked on a lot on the West Mall, and all the little fundamentalist Christians there think I'm the devil-possessed antichrist of the universe, because I like to play the devil's advocate, and I like to oftentimes come to the defense of students on campus that represent alternative religions, or that are atheists or whatever.
Right.
Oftentimes, I stand in opposition to the very people who would think that that otherwise I would be on their team. And there's a group, I don't know if I can mention their name. It's a religious organization called In Defense of the Faith.
Yeah, we know about those guys.
Oh, okay. Well, they were down at UT last week, and they had a microphone set up in the West Mall for comments and questions from.
I wish we'd have known about that. We'd have loved to go down there.
Oh, it was great. They had questions and comments, a microphone set up for that, for students who might be listening in the West Mall area. So they said their little spiel, and of course they raged on completely groundless terms against evolution. And
oh yeah, they're real big on the young Earth. They think it's 6,000 years old.
Oh yeah, just like Bishop Usher taught. And so they like to rage against that. And of course, they always throw in their little spiel about Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, and all the other what you might call spin-off or marginal Christian groups that they think are unorthodox and heretical. And so they're doing.
They have the only one true religion. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I've heard him say that several times.
Exactly. And so, of course, they get to the moment where they want to take questions and comments, and so I go up to the microphone, and I like to play up to them like I'm one of them, and I'm going to validate everything they've said. And so I stood up at the microphone, and I said, here at UT, I'm going to be graduating here in May, and at UT, they force you to take classes that are on your degree plan, and these liberal professors here make you read horrible books.
Right.
And I said, I've been here at UT for 4 years, and I've had to read books that had stories in them about prostitution and homosexuality and murder. Huh?
I think I know where you're going. This is great. Go ahead.
Anyway, so I listed a long, laundry list of all these, human vices, and I said the book is called The Bible.
Yeah.
And so I go into this little Pentecostal thing I said, right now, in the name of Jesus, I bind the Bible, I cast it from us in the name of Jesus, and I did this long roll of tongues, like a Pentecostal evangelist, and I spoke in tongues for about 30 seconds, and then, said all this stuff. Well, after that was over, a few of my friends were laughing, and people got a kick out of that. But I had, fundamentalist Christian kids from the area that are their supporters coming over, and you could just see the bloody murder in their eyes if they could just screaming at me over that. They just go into an uncontrollable rage at any kind of parody, any kind of spoof, any kind of teasing. But anyway,
it's bizarre because I can't imagine from their perspective why they would think their God would need them to get upset to defend him, right? He's supposed to be omnipotent and omniscient. He knows exactly what you just said, and if he doesn't like it, he can strike you dead.
Right.
I think it was a personal
what's the deal?
matter. It attacked their egos. It was their beliefs, unless it was
right, exactly.
And then always that's always the curious dichotomy to me is that they'll go out and they will be the most provocative, antisocial, monosyllabic, sycophantic, sociopathic freaks on a street corner screaming at everyone.
And we're looking down the crowd there.
Are these some friends of ours?
Well, actually, that woman asked to join. Yeah, she actually.
Sorry to interrupt. Good-looking girls, though.
Yeah. Sorry, caller. We're talking about the safe walk. You see it going there in the background? And I thought that was a great crowd shot. We're in the back of the crowd looking towards the front here.
Hey, Robert?
Yeah.
You sound kind of familiar. Are you with the University Skeptical Society by any chance?
I went to a couple of their meetings, and what happened is this semester I'm taking 18 hours so I can graduate, and so I have no social life and no time, and so I went to like 2 meetings, and that was. I've got a lot of friends in the Skeptical Society.
Okay, just checking. You sounded like we might have met.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
We probably did. I think you look familiar.
Okay.
But anyway, I look like the guy in the middle. I have a shaved head, and you probably would recognize me if you saw me, because you look very familiar to me. But anyway, they can provoke the general public in any way, shape, or form, all for the sake of Jesus and good old Kodak fun. And then the moment you retaliate with humor, or they just absolutely go berserk, ballistic, and it just amazes me how. They can really dish it out, but they have absolutely no tolerance whatsoever for any kind of fun or parody or I'm just amazed at how they oftentimes don't realize how their very actions and their behavior kind of very much overshadow the content of what they have to say, and you watch how they behave, and you see sociopaths. You don't see. I don't see anyone who are necessarily being effective at representing, say, some kind of virtuous love or charity or mercy or godly merciful characteristics or whatever that they claim to represent. And anyway, keep up the good work. I think atheists are absolutely incredible. Lord bless you. And
gee, thanks for nothing.
Sure. So you all take care and love your show. I watch it all the time, and you all do great work.
Thank you.
Okay.
And you have a great week.
Now, many of these humorless people that he's talking about are people that say we lack emotion,
Yes,
unemotional
good point.
atheists. Humor, I think, is the greatest emotion to make life worth living. And I believe that's why it's there. I believe it's a part of evolution.
I think that. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, what I did is I ran up there and got all the way to the front. So that was actually showing the front of the crowd. So this is going to be the whole entire crowd's going to go in front of the camera, and I'm sitting right in front of the
they're waving at us.
Yes, I was trying to get in the way. Yeah. So this you saw when we first started up there at the courthouse, so you're going to get to see the whole entire march right there.
How many guys from our group did we have there?
Wow.
3.
If we had a cutout of a little car in
would have
front
been
of
4
us,
if I could have made
like
it.
Conan.
Like Conan?
Yeah, cut out of a little car.
Oh, okay.
I think the reason that Christians claim that we don't have any emotions is because when tragic things happen, we don't go gathering in big crowds to pray and weep like they do.
Right.
And so they look at us and go, "Oh, don't you have any feelings about this?" And an excellent example of the kind of situation that would make them feel like that is this shooting at the school in Colorado. And I'm going to go ahead and go into this because we didn't actually have a Christian to call up and challenge us on this point. So I'll just go ahead.
They're like that. They're just not reliable.
I've already heard Christians claiming that these kids that appear to have been the perpetrators were atheists. And I can't imagine where they're getting that, because they've found a diary from one of the two apparent gunmen showing that they'd been planning this massacre for a year, and that they picked Hitler's birthday to conduct their attack because they were fans of Adolf Hitler. Now, there's some interesting things about Adolf Hitler. Until this morning, when I did a little research, I had gone on the assumption that Adolf Hitler was a Christian, because he said he was a lot. But apparently, he was atheist. He did believe in a supreme being, but he was not a Christian, because a Christian would not say that he wrote this in a letter to Heinrich Himmler on October 14, 1941. It may be asked whether concluding a concordat with the churches wouldn't facilitate our exercise of power. First, in this way, the authority of the church would be vitiated by the fact of the intervention of a third power concerning which it is impossible to say how long it would remain reliable. In the case of the Anglican Church, this objection does not arise, for England knows she can depend on her church. But what about the Catholic Church? Wouldn't we be running the risk of her one day going into reverse after having put herself at the service of the state solely in order to safeguard her power? So he goes on for quite a while about how we ought to think about teaming up with the churches in order to get their support for Nazism. But he's concerned because he knows that, in fact, science is going to come along and overturn most of the claims made by the mainstream Christian religions. But he's also not an atheist, because an atheist would not say an educated man He's not an atheist because he says, an educated man retains the sense of the mysteries of nature and bows before the unknowable. An uneducated man, on the other hand, runs the risk of going over to atheism, which is a return to the state of the animal. And so he was not an atheist. He didn't think atheism was a good thing.
He was too smart for us.
So what he was a guy who did happen to believe that there was some unknowable something that educated men ought to bow down to. So he was a theist, but mostly he was a guy who looked and said, well, gosh, there's all these Christians that believe things that are clearly not true, that science is clearly going to overturn, and what we need to think about here in the Nazi Party is whether we want to pretend to go along with these people in order to get their support for our political agenda. And of course, that's exactly what he did. Even before Hitler had come to power, the German Christians issued the following guidelines, which were supported by nearly all German Protestant Christians. This is a document from 1933. Guidelines of the Movement, German Christians of June 6, 1932. Okay, 32. And this skips a few that aren't relevant to what I'm talking about, but I'll list them by number. 1, these guidelines want to show all faithful Germans the ways and the goals to achieve a reorganization of the church. 3, the list Christian Germans does not intend to be a party of church politics in the usual meaning. It addresses all Protestant Christians of German nature. The time of parliamentarianism has had its day, even in the church. We want a lively church, which is the expression of all the forces of faith of our people. 6, we demand a modification of the church constitution and fight against the anti-religious and subversive Marxism and its Christian socialist supporters of all denominations. In our view, the current church constitution lacks trust in God and in the mission of the church. It is but struggle, the cross, and sacrifice which lead to the kingdom of heaven, not a wrong understanding of peace. 7, in our view, Volksstrom, or national character, and nationality are orders of life given to us by God, which to preserve and protect is the law of God to us. Thus, interbreeding of races must be opposed. For a long time, the German missionaries, out of their experience, have warned the German people, keep your race pure, and say to us that belief in Christ does not destroy our race, but deepens and sanctifies it. 9. We hold that to missionize Jews is a severe danger for our people. It is the entrance of alien blood into the body of German Volksstrom. We oppose missionizing the Jews as long as Jews have the German citizenship and civil rights, and therefore the danger of racial interbreeding and bastardizing exists. The Holy Bible also speaks of holy wrath and the denial of love to those who are evil. Especially intermarriage between Germans and Jews must be prohibited. 10. We want a Protestant church rooted in our nationality. We reject the spirit of a Christian internationalism. We want to overcome this dangerous and pernicious consequence, the dangerous and pernicious consequences of this spirit, such as pacifism, internationalism, Freemasonry, etc., by our faith in the mission of our people as commanded by God. Membership of a Protestant minister in a Freemasonic lodge is to be prohibited. These were the feelings of German Christians at the time of Hitler's rise to power. Hitler didn't make up the idea that Jews were alien and evil. German Christians came up with that themselves. All he did was play on that attitude in an effort to win the support of German Christians.
Well, they've done that for centuries. They forced them to live in ghettos.
Exactly. So while Hitler does not appear to have been a Christian himself, Christianity provided him with the ideological justification for the Holocaust. Atheists are different from Hitler in two important ways. One, we don't believe in any gods at all. He did. Second, we have no interest whatsoever in manipulating Christians through their superstitions and biases. If we don't agree with something Christians say, like, for instance, that Jews are evil aliens, we will not start rounding up Jews and burning them in ovens just so Christians will be our friends. Now, there's a follow-up to this. There's been a lot of discussion and some criticism, I'll admit, from callers over the past few weeks, saying that our show has taken on a sense of intolerance and a sense of superiority over Christians, and that we don't treat their beliefs with respect. Well, I've got a short article here by H.L. Menken, who was a reporter during the time of the monkey trials back in the 1920s, and he was a newspaper reporter and columnist in New York City and wrote a lot about religion and his opinions of that. And here are his comments on the concept of tolerance for religion. Once more, alas, I find myself unable to follow the best liberal thought. What the world's contention amounts to, at bottom, is simply the doctrine that a man engaged in combat with superstition should be very polite to superstition. This, I fear, is nonsense. The way to deal with superstition is not to be polite to it, but to tackle it with all arms, and so rout it, cripple it, and make it forever infamous and ridiculous. Is it perchance cherished by persons who should know better? Then their folly should be brought out into the light of day, and exhibited there in all its hideousness, until they free from it, hiding their heads in shame. True enough, even a superstitious man has certain inalienable rights. He has a right to harbor and indulge his imbecilities as long as he pleases, provided he does not try to inflict them upon other men by force. He has a right to argue for them as eloquently as he can, in season and out of season. He has a right to teach them to his children, but certainly he has no right to be protected against the free criticism of those who do not hold them. He has no right to demand that they be treated as sacred. He has no right to preach them without challenge. Did Clarence Darrow, in the course of his dreadful bombardment of Bryan, that's in the monkey trial, drop a few shells incidentally into measurably cleaner camps? Then let the garrisons of those camps look to their defenses. They are free to shoot back, but they cannot disarm their enemy. The meaning of religious freedom, I fear, is sometimes greatly misapprehended. It is taken to be a sort of immunity, not merely from governmental control, but also from public opinion. A dunderhead gets himself a long-tailed coat, rises behind the sacred desk, and emits such bilge as would gag a Hottentot. Is it to pass unchallenged? If so, then what we have is not religious freedom at all, but the most intolerable and outrageous variety of religious despotism. Any fool, once he is admitted to holy orders, becomes infallible. Any half-wit, by the simple device of ascribing his delusions to revelation, takes on an authority that is denied to all the rest of us. And
Excellent.
that, again, is the difference between atheists and Hitler. Hitler would look at Christians and say, these wacky people believe these wacky things, but there are a lot of them, and I can manipulate them by playing to their superstitions. And that's exactly what he did, and look what happened. Atheists will not do that. We have no interest in doing that. We think that manipulating people by their superstitions is a fundamentally evil thing, and so we speak up. And guess what? We get criticized for speaking up. We get criticized for speaking out about whether a claim is true or not, and instead of simply falling in line or maybe out of some attempt to manipulate. Excuse me. Yes, Ray.
That's the girls that were yelling for the atheists there. Yes.
Where are they? That's our fans.
Well, I thought that bus was going to hit us.
Anyway, so there is a big difference there. Please don't call in and claim that Hitler was an atheist. He wasn't. And please don't claim that we have any responsibility for those school shootings. We don't. If anything, that earlier story that I read shows that schools are trying to bring in Christians to talk to their kids. They're not bringing in atheists. Atheists can't get in these programs that they're setting up to try to bring ethics to kids. Yes, Ray.
Okay, fantastic. I know I appreciate H.L. Menken, and that was an excellent article. What's happening here is they asked everyone to pick up a daisy while they're there, and we're putting this daisy here at this memorial.
Oh. Now, where's the memorial? Is that on the
there.
lawn of the Capitol?
No, it's not. It's not a permanent memorial. It's a temporary memorial. It's in remembrance of people that have been died due to domestic violence, basically. And see, we're all seeing how all the daisies there, and someone in that group picked out a daisy to represent that. I'm not sure what the significance of the daisy was. That's what everybody's doing. See, other people are throwing their daisies in the background.
Well, there's a big crowd. You got to get in there somehow.
So, but really cool is that they got a lot of the kids out, and I get down low here and get some of the kids. Yeah. Yes.
Now, back to what I was saying for just a second.
Sure, and we do have a caller.
Atheists would love to have an opportunity to speak out on their particularly to children, on their ideas of right and wrong. And there are books on this subject. I just brought 3 of them in here today because my wife picked them up from Dan Barker again. He's a prolific guy, former fundamentalist minister turned skeptic and atheist. He works with the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and he has written a series of books on skepticism and critical thinking and morality for kids from a. Can we lose the blue screen? It's making it hard to read.
You get the special
anyway,
see-through
I've got
copy.
these 3 books, and if we have time, or do you want to take that? Do you want to take Mary first, and then I can read from.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, and I'll look up the part that I wanted to read from this book.
Mary?
Hi.
Yeah, sorry to leave you on hold all the time.
That's okay. I can always listen.
Thank you.
I didn't call last week because last week I fulfilled a lifelong quest.
What was that?
I found the perfect buzz.
The perfect buzz?
Yes.
Well, fill us in.
I can't because some of the people that listen to your show, I'll tell you sometime in private, but I'm not going to have it judged by some of the people that listen to your show, okay?
Well, call our voicemail.
I will.
Okay.
But what I wanted to really talk about was I watch court TV a lot.
Yeah.
And they got this one show on there called Homicide Life on the Street that's a cop show that I really like, okay?
Right.
I really enjoy it. They hardly ever... Well, every once in a while, one of the characters talks about God, but for the most part, it's kind of, they're trying to get at some kind of reality about this thing. Anyway, I tuned over to it one night, and I caught the last few minutes of a show that's on before it called Crime Stories, and it was a show about Jeffrey Dahmer.
Right.
Which is a subject that's not real interesting to me, but I just listened because it was there.
Oh.
And at the very end, it was his father talking, and he said, they asked him, they said, well, why? He had a good family, you know, he came from a good family, and y'all did the best you could with him. Why do you think he turned out this way? And his father said something that made me just temporarily become insane.
What was that?
He said that Jeffrey had found out a long time ago that God wasn't, that he didn't believe in God, and that he wanted to do these things that were against God, and that evolution, he finally found evolution, and that evolution made him feel that
he wasn't accountable to anyone, so he went ahead and did what he did. And
That's scary.
No kidding. I was just floored. I couldn't believe that something like this. But then it occurred to me, who cares what Jeffrey Dahmer thought? I mean, this is a guy that did things that I would never even think about doing. And yet, here they were, and they were accepting his opinion of why he did what he did, which had to be a lie, because he was a murderer, and murderers are liars by definition. And it's just, we're up against
it, but that's all right.
We're up against the wall with this thing, you know? We've got to have a future, and we're stuck with all this sick thinking, and for my part, I don't know how to find my way out of it. You know, because every time I go apply for a job and somebody will be in the same class with me and they'll say, well, you need to find, do you believe in God? I say, well, no, not really. Well, you need to find something pretty quick, you know? And like, I'm the one that's screwed up, and this person with bleached blonde hair that looked like a bird pissed on it is the one who's got the answer. And I refuse to believe it. And it's just backing me into a corner. And I guess I'm going to have to join a group again, form some kind of alliance, because I'm getting awful scared by this stuff.
Well, come on down. We'd love to meet you in person. We still haven't met you yet.
Oh, I know. I'm going to make it down there one Sunday. When my job changes,
yeah,
I'll be sure and get there.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
You have a great week.
There are undoubtedly people out there who do leap to the conclusion that if there is no God, there is no such thing as right and wrong. But why do they leap to that conclusion? Well, because religion has been telling them all along that God is the reason why there's right and wrong. And they've never heard that you can approach morality from a rational perspective, that there might be such things as like good rules of behavior or good ethical principles other than what the Bible tells you. So it's religion's fault. It's Christianity's fault for telling people that morality has to come from their Bible and then not being able to prove that their Bible really shows the truth. They just leave people with a void. Atheists would love to be able to speak out on ethics. And here I have a book, Maybe Right, Maybe Wrong. It's a book for kids by Dan Barker, like I said before, former fundamentalist preacher turned atheist. It says in the back of the book, Maybe Right, Maybe Wrong, affirms a child's ability to think, to seek information, and to ask why, by using factually based information and the tools of critical thought without recourse to dogma or holy books. The book's main character, Andrea, learns vital moral lessons. Her most important insight, regardless of one's own beliefs, you should respect everybody's human rights. Through fun illustrations and an engaging narrative, Maybe Right, Maybe Wrong communicates to children that their level, communicates to children on their level important principles of moral choice. And I'm just going to read a short bit from what it has to say to kids here. So you people who think that atheists are Jeffrey Dahmers who want to go out and do anything that pops into our heads can have some idea what atheists actually think about morality and ethics, at least some of us. Your actions are very important. If you want to live a good, healthy, and happy life, you should choose your actions carefully. Morality is how you decide what actions are right or wrong, good or bad, better or worse. Having morality is the same as having good principles. To follow good principles sometimes means that you will do things that you don't want to do. You do them because they are the right thing to do. And there's a picture here of a kid who has found a purse and is handing it in to a police officer saying, we found this purse, do you know who lost it? Not keeping the money, which might be more fun, but doing the right thing. Just because something is a rule does not make it right. A rule can be explained by a good principle. If a rule can be explained by a good principle, then it is a good rule. There are many good rules and good laws, but if a rule does not have a good principle, then it is a bad or unnecessary rule. And here's kids at the beach, and there's a sign that says no swimming on Sunday. And clearly the implication is that this is based on arbitrary religious restrictions and not. And it's not that beaches are any more dangerous on Sundays or any less usable on Sundays. The most important principle is life is valuable. You should never try to hurt another living thing. You should never try to hurt yourself. you should never try to hurt another person. Some people think that the reason killing is wrong is because a god or a government has said you should not kill. But if they are going to follow a command that says you should not kill, then they might also follow a command that says you should kill. Millions of people have killed other people in wars because they think a god told them to do it. This is wrong. When possible, you should try to stop the pain of others. If you have hurt someone, then hurt them. If you have to hurt someone, then hurt them as little as possible. Good people do not want to fight. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll break that off now because we're running out of time. But clearly, atheists do have ethical and moral principles. No atheist who followed these rules would go charging into a school with bags full of explosives and arms full of weapons, mowing down their fellow students. You just wouldn't do it. It makes no sense. But it might make sense to a person who was brought up to believe that morality has to come from God and then thinks, well, gee, maybe there is no God.
Fantastic. Dan Barker, we're definitely get him back. He was definitely very intelligent.
I was very impressed with him.
Yes. Let's go to Philip. Philip?
Hello.
Quickly, we're down to 4 minutes.
4 minutes, okay. My question was, I just listened to what you were reading. Doesn't that sound to you just a little bit like what the Ten Commandments are?
Maybe a little bit, because a couple of the exactly how many Ten Commandments are actually ethical rules and not.
Well, I'd say about 5, and the other
about
3.
5.
Don't you think most of them are just
and those 5 are rules. They are pronouncements. Do this, don't do that. Dan Barker's approach to morality is to speak in terms of principles, which can sometimes be in conflict, meaning you have to sometimes deal with hard decisions, and that is much healthier than a rule and an idea that to be ethical or moral, you have to follow these rules. Because as he pointed out, if you will follow a rule that says don't kill, you will also follow a rule that says do kill. It just makes you manipulable, and you're not thinking about what is really good or really bad.
We follow that rule when we join the armed forces anyway, so.
That's a good point.
So, I mean, that is in effect a reality. But my question originally when I called was what type of a religion is atheism? And the lady told me, well, it's not. And I'm thinking, why is it being pushed against Christianity if it's not a religion?
Well, it's pushing back against Christianity, which is trying to marginalize atheism.
And we're not trying to make a replacement for a religion or whatever. We're just trying to present our views and our facts, and we're leaving that decision up to you folks.
But is that not, in fact, what religion does?
No,
it presents the facts.
There's plenty of religion out there that tells you they are the only solution, they are the only way, don't listen to anyone else. The Bible is 100% true, do whatever the Bible says.
And if you're going to take a really lax definition of religion, like it's some guys that think they know better, that say that they think they know better, then,
good point.
Then guys who prefer one kind of book binding over another kind of book binding are a religion. A religion is a thing where you believe in supernatural beings and you worship, and atheism is not that.
But aren't you in effect trying to say that you have something better?
Sure, but if that's going to be your definition of religion, then all kinds of things are religions that are just silly. It makes no sense to call things religions on that basis.
I mean,
we have no God, and we don't do any worshiping.
Right, but that's the only difference.
That's the significant difference, I think.
What's wrong with worshiping a God if it makes everybody feel good and if it makes them live good lives and do? I mean, I just don't understand what's wrong with it.
Because, we don't have enough time to really go into this. Please call back next show, and we'll go into it in more detail. We're down to like a minute and a half.
I understand. Thanks for talking.
But we'd be happy to respond to that when we have longer.
That'll be nice.
All right.
Bye.
You have a great week.
Sorry. I'll shut up now.
They have it listed as number 4. I don't have anybody on 4. So I'm going to go to 1, and it'll be the last caller. Good morning, caller.
Hi, this is Julia again. How are you guys? I know you don't have much time, so I guess I'm going to call back next week again, because I really like this book.
Oh, you're from Germany, right?
Yeah, I'm the girl from Germany. Yeah, that's right. And I like this book that you have about morality, and I only want to tell you short. In Germany, I had 13 years religious science at school. But we had very nice teachers. They were very open. We were not forced, to talk about the Bible and baloney like that. And we had to pray every morning. That is used in Germany. But I had the luck that my parents and everybody of my friends, they're all atheists. and so I have good moral principles, and I guess I really make my life, and
I'm
I
really
like
sorry
your
to cut
show.
you. I'm down. I got to say goodbye here because I got to sign off here. Yeah, you have a great week.
Yeah,
Bye, everybody.
bye.
We love you. And we love you there in Austin. It's Atheist Community of Austin.
Come to the bagel shop.
West 5th and
Watch
Lavaca.
Ray Blevins.